Okay, quick question. Let me know your answer in the comments. Do you think Batman could beat Dr. Doom? I'm really interested to see what you guys say. But what we were going to do was start on the Black Panther run by Ta-Nehisi Coates, but we had a couple of requests for DOOMWAR. If you guys don't know, the short version of this story is Dr. Doom Invades Wakanda. It came out in 2010, putting this right before the events of the story Avengers: The Children's Crusade. The one where Victor tried to take the life force from the Scarlet Witch. We covered that too. So, check that out if you haven't already. Anyway, let's begin. It is now 2 days since the ancient nation of Wakanda experienced its first ever forcible change of government. Suri, the Princess Regent, and T'Challa, the former king of Wakanda, have fled the country and their current whereabouts are unknown. The new government, which has declared itself Desturi, a Swahili word meaning tradition, overthrew the royal family in non-violent revolution. Currently, judges of the special tribunal are entering the courtroom for a trial that has sent shockwaves around the world. The trial of Ororo Munro, the former queen of Wakanda. The queen, also known as Storm, a long-time member of the infamous mutant group, the X-Men, was arrested following an unprovoked attack on an unarmed farm worker and subsequently charged with treason, practicing witchcraft, and crime against humanity. If convicted, she faces life in prison or death. Takan, leader of the dissident Desturi government, is one of the judges overseeing the trial. Guards, with weapons in hand, march Ororo to the center of the courtroom. Takan looks down at the former queen and smirks. He bellows out for everyone in the courtroom to hear. For the first time in its glorious history, the nation of Wakanda teeters on the brink of collapse, reeling from famine, pestilence, diseased crops, and, worst of all, a culture poisoned by outside influence. Once a proud warrior nation, Wakanda has betrayed its heritage of 10,000 years, has allowed its vision to stray from the shining pathway of destiny, has been abandoned by its so-called rulers and left to suffer at the hands of the witch who shared the bed with our former king. No crime is more heinous than that of allowing evil to flourish. The time for such sinful idleness has passed. The Desturi have returned peace and order to our land, and all that remains is to expunge the last traces of foreign corruption. He orders Ororo, state your name and the nature of your crimes. Ororo curses Takan. This causes the courtroom guards to turn their weapons on her. A simple blast of energy puts her back in her place. Takan tells the Weather Witch, "Insolences will not be tolerated in this country. How do you plead?" Plead? I spit on your plea, and this joke of a court I will not demean myself by playing along with this farce. Takan turns to the others in the courtroom. Note it in the official record that the accused has entered a plea of guilty, saving this court the time and expense of a lengthy trial. I believe we can move straight to the sentencing. Death is the traditional way of dealing with a witch. Ororo doesn't beg. She tells Takan he can kill her if he wants, but to do so quickly. Ororo doesn't believe for 1 second that her husband has abandoned her. T'Challa is coming back for her. Then he'll go after Takan. Takan beams back at the former queen, telling her, "Let him come, or have you forgotten Wakanda has never been conquered?" Ororo stands to her feet. "It's you who have forgotten something, Takan. You are not Wakanda. He is." Moments later, the guards flood out of the courthouse. They push back every civilian and cameraman in sight. By order of the Distori Council, no more pictures are to be taken. The verdict is in, and the former queen of Wakanda has been sentenced to death on the very same spot that a little over a year ago she was married to the king. Hours later, Takan sits upon his throne in a room full of tribal leaders and advisors. He tells them Wakanda is finally secure. All ambassadors have been expelled, all borders closed, all press sent packing. All foreign nationals have been given 12 hours to leave the country. No exception made. Takan expects the leaders of the tribes of Wakanda to enforce these laws without question and without hesitation. These are grave times. Wakanda is currently cutting away the cancers that have made their nation sick. Radical surgery, no matter how carefully planned or skillfully executed, will always bring some pain and some scars. One of the tribe leaders stands to his feet, claiming those of the marsh have quietly supported the Distori from the beginning. However, there have been rumors that Takan has garnished support from outside forces. Elsewhere, Dr. Doom, the king of Latveria, is secretly in Wakanda and attempting to break through a vault door. Or, rather, he enlists the help of a man named Akeja and a number of other Wakandans to help him break through. There are 12 locks in total, and Akeja states the 10th lock is proving very tricky. It has a 128-bit encryption with a random code sequencer. There are no coding footprints and no back doors that he can find. All he gets is a series of symbols that he doesn't recognize. Dr. Doom approaches the door and raises his hand. Symbols stained on the doorway are now visible. He tells Akeja, "The reason you can't unlock this code is because it's not computer encryption at all. These are alchemical symbols from a race of lizard kings that died out before mankind descended from the trees, a blood cult brilliant in the dark arts. Alchemy? Acadia asks. But T'Challa abhors magic. He's a man of science. Well, something must have happened to change his mind. An interesting puzzle. It's not Wakandan sorcery. T'Challa set this trap to stop the Destori, and it would have done just that. This merely requires the correct spell and a simple blood sacrifice. The energy around Dr. Doom's hand begins to crack the air around it. Then, with an incantation, blood-red spectral serpents emerge out of nowhere and dance around the room. They pierce through all the Wakandans besides Acadia, ripping out their souls and plunging into the vault door. One by one, the Wakandans collapse to the ground. Child's play. Doom scoffs as the 10th lock pings open. Within Nation X, on Utopia, home of the mutant race, the X-Men call a meeting to discuss their next move. Scot Summers, leader of the mutant race, must think as a leader of a nation, not just a small band of heroes. A quick decision could be a deadly one. Emma Frost, the White Queen, wonders where T'Challa is in all of this. Why is it they're not seeing him kicking down the doors to rescue Storm? Wolverine admits it's a good question. He finds it hard to believe that a bunch of ultra-conservative goons could arrest Storm and chase T'Challa out of the country. Scot isn't buying it either. If the Destori had taken down T'Challa, they'd be bragging about it to the world. Whatever is going on is bigger than a simple coup. Alyssa Tager steps into the room. Alyssa, the mutant known as Cypher, has abilities that include the full spectrum of invisibility and complete stealth. She is even able to mask her psychic presence from most telepaths, with the exception of a notable few. Scot tells Cypher that they are in a meeting and whatever it is can wait. But apparently, they have some unexpected guests. The X-Men walk outside and are greeted by T'Challa, the former Black Panther and former king of Wakanda, Shuri, the current Black Panther and Princess Regent of Wakanda, a fleet of air transportation vehicles, and a legion of Dora Milaje. T'Challa approaches the X-Men, stating, "My friends, we need to talk about war." In Wakanda, Ororo Munro is locked within a cell and left to await her execution. T'Challa appears on a screen in front of her and watches as she attempts to break free. "This cell won't hold me, and it won't hide me from T'Challa," she tells him. "The only reason you were able to take me was because you chose the coward's approach, arresting me in a school surrounded by children." "Don't be absurd," T'Challa growls back. "I know you're a witch, and a powerful one. I'm actually surprised you didn't fight back. What are the lives of a few Wakandan children to a monster like you? Is this your witchcraft failing you? What a pity. This cell, with its genetic null field, was specifically prepared for monsters like you. Mutants, abominations. It was built before your unholy sham of a marriage even took place. Designed by your husband himself. I wonder who he had in mind when he built it. In Utopia, tensions run high. Suri thanks Scot for accepting them into the country. It seems they are short on friends at the moment. Scot explains that he hasn't offered them asylum yet, and it may not be wise at this point. The Wakandan government has been issuing hourly bulletins describing a laundry list of human rights violations in which Suri and T'Challa are both implicated. Obviously, the X-Men don't believe any of the negative things said about Storm, but that's as far as Scot's trust is willing to go until he gets a lot more information. Especially when Storm is in prison and T'Challa is on Utopia, halfway around the world. Scot, T'Challa begins. I know how things must look, but believe me when I tell you that there is a good reason I fled. I had to choose between my wife's life and the future of my entire country. I chose my country. Elsewhere, on Rapa Nui, the southernmost point of the Polynesian Triangle, Walter Delcom, also known as the Broker, the former CEO of Damage Control, and the current manager of Doom and Global Network, sips his tea as he oversees the production of an army of Doombots. His assistant, Mrs. Tickle, joins him within the factory. You always take me to the nicest places, Walter, she tells him. Oh, I don't know. A little paint, a few throw pillows. Besides, my dear Mrs. Tickle, we won't be here more than a couple of days. Just long enough for our patron to secure all that lovely processed vibranium. Then we can kick things into high gear. I know, Mrs. Tickle sighs. I guess I'm just getting impatient. After all these months, after all the planning, I want to see the world burn. For over a year, T'Challa's Wakandan intelligence network had been tracking rumors of a group of dissidents called the Desturi, a fundamentalist group, deeply xenophobic. They had infiltrated all levels of the government, with agents planted in the military, the press, everywhere. But they were invisible. T'Challa knew that they were there, but he didn't know who they were. The scope of infiltration abilities meant one thing. They had access to surveillance equipment far beyond the ordinary. T'Challa followed every possible lead and got nowhere. And then the source sought him out, lured T'Challa into a trap, and nearly killed him. Learning the name of that source cost T'Challa dearly. never was a name truer to the potential of its meaning. Doom. During his covert investigations into their security leaks, T'Challa quietly tested for every kind of surveillance equipment, from LMDs to holographic relay technology. T'Challa found nothing, and the security leaks increased tenfold. Then, T'Challa tested for nanites and found them. He rigged a device to locate them, thinking at first that Doom had used nanite camera swarms, each individual member a contributing part of a larger picture that would transmit what they saw and heard. But Doom was even more sophisticated than that. He somehow managed to introduce nanite swarms into the Wakandan palace food and water supplies. T'Challa's mother, his wife, his generals, and closest advisors had all been turned into living cameras. Everything they saw, everything they heard, everywhere they went, each of them was an unknowing spy for Dr. Doom. With one subtle play, Doom had acquired all of the secrets of Wakanda. The few nanites T'Challa was able to harvest self-destructed as soon as he tried to test them. Doom had programmed them to implode if their signal was blocked. T'Challa was trapped, frustrated at every turn. He could not even tell his wife about the danger she was in, or how she was being used. T'Challa can only hypothesize. When one is the Panther, there is a heightened sense of self-awareness. Perhaps Doom suspected that T'Challa might have discovered his plot sooner if he had been infected. From then on, however, T'Challa made sure to take no food or water at the palace, and he spent more and more time apart from everyone who could have been infected. The only person he dared share this with was Suri. To have opposed the Destori would have meant pushing back an invisible tide. Now, they're all out in the open. Storm's trial, her impending execution, are clearly an attempt by Doom to force T'Challa's hand. He and Suri, and any friends they can gather, have but one course of action. To save his wife, he must invade a kingdom that's never been conquered by force of arms and spill the blood of his own people. Emma Frost asks, what's Doom's endgame? What's his motive in all this? T'Challa throws a small device on the table before them. It came to Earth as a meteor 10,000 years ago, and my ancestors have spent every day since exploring its secrets. Vibranium. Vibranium's power to amplify or modify sound waves is well known. But there is much about the rarest of metals that the Wakandans have never shared with the world. One of their most closely guarded secrets is how vibranium can amplify mystical energies. It's unstable when used that way, and it taps into an energy flow on the quantum level that is virtually infinite. They have never mastered the secrets of using magically charged vibranium, but T'Challa believes Doom has. With a simple piece, Doom could tear the mutant colossus apart, and do it with a flick of his hand. With the 10,000 tons of it inside the vault, Doom would become the most powerful force on the planet. Inside Ororo's cell, she throws her mattress from her bed on the floor and uses the wiring from the frame to create lockpicks and soldering tools. Her powers may be diminished, but her cat-like craftiness will help her prevail every time. Ororo is surprised at how little effort it takes for the doors to slide open, until she realizes she's not the one who opened the door. Storm prepares to leave, but stops when she sees Victor Von Doom extending a helping hand. "Your Highness," he says, "your assistance is needed."